Hey guys, Gongrongzong here. So with the expansion coming to a close, I thought it would be nice to look back on some of the great memories that Legion has brought us that we'll probably look back on and reminisce on for years to come. So get prepared to get hit with a good dose of nostalgia as we go through this list together. If you're new to the channel and you'd like to see more of such WoW content, be sure to hit that subscribe button for more of such videos. First up, of course, we have our beloved artifacts. These guys have been with us for a few years now, and I'm sure most of you have become very attached to them. Some have been instrumental within the lore and story, such as the legendary Ashbringer wielded by the High Lord Tyrion Fordring himself, the fabled Doomhammer wielded by the former War Chief Thrall, and before that Ogrim Doomhammer, or the Scythe of Elune that had a long and mysterious background in the origin of the Worgen. Some have had a greater presence in the game than others, such as the Beastmaster gun that gave us an excellent companion in the form of good old Haiti, or Xal'atath, the dagger that would whisper a good dose of madness to our Shadow Priests, Aluneth, the arcane mage weapon that would occasionally berate you, and the Scala Manari for demonology warlocks that would pepper you with a good dose of sarcasm. There was even an artifact fishing pole added in, the Underlight Angler, which I think was a great touch by Blizzard, seeing as how fishing poles have traditionally fit in the weapon slot, and how good old Ned Peggle is certainly a character worthy of an artifact storyline. I think all of us will be in unison to say that we will miss our artifact weapons, and that their addition to the game will be an aspect fondly looked back upon for the remainder of WoW. Fare thee well, dear artifacts. Our journey was short, but amazing. Next up, we have the storyline of Legion. Legion's storyline may not have been the best in Warcraft's history, but it is most certainly one of the most memorable, as it wraps up the entire plotline that has been running since the very first opening of the Dark Portal. That is, the very first clash between orcs and humans, which in essence is the very first Warcraft game, and so is essentially the beginning of what is Warcraft as a game, a world, and a franchise. In Legion, we finally face the great mastermind and leader of the Burning Legion, Sargeras himself. This larger-than-life titanic presence that has been the grand orchestrator of most of our miseries and tragedies on Azeroth. The Legion influenced the First and Second War through the manipulation of the Orcs, caused extensive corruption of the mortal races of Azeroth, such as during the events of the Great Sundering when Azshara and her followers fell to their sway, was directly responsible for the corruption of the Draenei and the collapse of their world and society, and invaded our world several times, most notably during the Third War when Archimonde himself walked the earth and led to the destruction of the World Tree. In other words, the Fel has been the foundation behind nearly every great antagonistic action against the mortal races. To see it all come to a culmination and final ending in the imprisonment of Sargeras is a bittersweet ending in itself. No longer, or at least for the foreseeable future, will we have to deal with the evil machinations of the Burning Legion, and yet the Great Green has been instrumental in being a fantastic villain in this world that we call Warcraft. Now we come to none other than the Demon Hunters themselves, a hero class that has been synonymous with Warcraft since their introduction in Warcraft 3. The Demon Hunter, exemplified within the legendary anti-hero known as Illidan Stormrage, has been a most requested class to become playable for more than a decade, and in Legion, our wish came true. There could not have been more hype for this new hero class, and I fully believe that much of the revival of WoW following the abysmal expansion of WOD can be attributed to the introduction of the Demon Hunters. This unique class that had only 2 specs brought everything with it that a player could jump right into. They began at level 100 following the introduction quest. They were fast, quick, had smooth and extraordinary animations, and could even glide with their wings. Monks were fast and quick, and so were druids, but this was something else completely. In 7.0, almost everyone was rolling Demon Hunters, if not to main in one, then to essentially just try them out. Because why wouldn't you want to try out this awesome dual glaive wielding, blindfolded tattoo class that had sacrificed everything? Jokes aside, Demon Hunters fit in perfectly with the lore at this stage. The Legion was a greater threat than ever before, and Azeroth had to pull out all the stops in order to halt their advance. Much to Mayev's disappointment, of course, but even she knew that it had to be done. The introduction of Death Knights was awesome during Wrath. don't get me wrong, but the inclusion of playable Demon Hunters really took the cake. And for all my Demon Hunter fans out there, this was probably the best new class decision that Blizzard ever made. And in the words of our eternal edgelord, you are now finally prepared. Next we come to the Mage Tower. The Mage Tower has been a roller coaster ride for many. At one end you're cursing at the screen and wanting to just flip your keyboard at Blizzard. On the other, for those that managed to complete it, the sense of achievement was out of this world. As the expansion drew to a close and our artifacts got significantly buffed up, the WoW Reddit was filled with joyous posts of players managing to complete their Mage Tower challenges. In a nutshell, it seemed at first to bring out the worst in us, but in reality, it brought out the best in us. There were stories of kind warlocks camping outside the tower, allowing players to auto-group up with them in order to grab a health stone. There was a constant outpouring of support to those that sought out help from either the forums or Reddit, and while it may have been a hard pill to swallow, it forced many of us to dive deep into our class mechanics and learn their ins and outs, at times even forcing us to pick obscure talents that we would never have given a second's thought had it not been for this challenge. And I think it brought the community closer together as a whole. A great foe had to be slain, but it ultimately could only be done by each of us, solo. Support could be given, but at the end of the day we had to face the challenge on our own. Much like real life actually, and in the same light, I'm sure many friends were made along the way. Whether or not we were able to complete the challenges that we wanted, the Mage Tower will always hold a place in our hearts, for being an unwavering obstacle that never bent in the face of complaints, but stood its ground to make the accomplishment of defeating it that much more fulfilling. Lastly, we saved the best for last, an iconic introduction that would change the face of WoW from Legion onwards, the introduction of the Airlight Racers. Everybody loved the concept, nobody hated it. They were easy to implement on Blizzard's end, cost them little resources, and yet seemed to add so much flavor, variety and spice to the game. And yet, it unintentionally sparked off some of the biggest debates that WoW has ever seen. Some races were welcomed wholeheartedly, such as the Magha Orcs for the Horde or the Dark Iron Dwarfs for the Alliance. Others, on the other hand, met with a less than stellar reception. The Alliance had wanted High Elves for years, but had instead gotten Void Elves. The Lightforged Draenei also seemed to have gotten the short end of the stick, being the least aesthetically different of the first four initial Airlight races. This quickly led to calls of Horde bias. In addition, the preview shots of what would be the Zandalari and Kultiran Druid forms also led to a much heated debate over which side seemed to have it better. A literal war of words between players had begun even before the actual battle for Azeroth. Regardless, the introduction of the Airlight Racers was a step in a new direction that would change the developmental course of WoW for years to come. Airlight Racers are here to stay, and we'll probably only be seeing more and more of them get integrated into our favourite factions as the years go by. And so that's my top 5 most memorable moments of Legion. However, I'm gonna give you a bonus number 6, and that is none other than the Three Sisters Windrunner comic. That art, oh my, that face, it is forever seared into my brain. Okay, no, I'm just kidding. My art is way worse than that, so I have no right to judge. And that's a wrap! I hope that the Legion expansion was a memorable experience for you as it was for me. If there's anything that WoW has given me after playing it for more than a decade since vanilla, it's these great memories that I'll bring with me to the end of my days. Feel free to leave a comment below of what might be your greatest memory. And as always, I'll see you in Azeroth.